Hello my friends, let's look at the Bakhmut situation. It's getting worse and worse day by day. Russia is still very close to this supply road, which is Ukrainian army doesn't use for supplies. But if Russians would dare to cross it, they can get the control over the main supply hub, the Chasiv over here. That is why firstly they need to get control over Ivanovsk, because now it's the main resistance village where our soldiers are fighting to not let Russians in, but day by day they are coming closer and closer. And let me show you the timeline. It was yesterday and it is today, so Russia advanced quite rapidly throughout the directions on the south, and they did it just in the recent 24 hours, so they came closer from this direction and here as well. So if they take Ivanovsk and Chasiv Yar for Ukrainian forces, the only way out is to get out from the Bakhmut city, because without supplies there is no any way. And as you can see, Russia is pushing on the south as well. They entered the residential area on the north too, so they sent all of the forces in the region to try to take Bakhmut under their control. Still, there is the chance for Ukrainian forces to keep the city under control, but those chances are not great. So Russian advancement from Klishivka was the major factor to try to encircle Bakhmut and cut supplies, and this was the most vulnerable point. I think the operation with the Soledar was mainly focused on the Russian advancement from the south of Bakhmut, because if they took Soledar, Ukraine sent more reinforcements to the north part. The Soledar is not far away. At the same time, Russia started to advance on the south from Klishivka, successfully taking this village, and actually there are no any other villages on their way that may present the threat for the Russia. The only one is Ivanovsk over here, still under control by Ukrainian forces. As you can see, the Russian army did the homework on their own mistakes like they did before, but here we speak about the Wagner soldiers and the special paratroop division of the Russian forces. Those are the most capable brigades that Russia has, and they have absolutely great losses. The main thing for Ukrainian army is to cause significant losses for Russia, and that's why we're now in defense, just not to lose our forces. And again, we see the similar situation with the Soledar, and it's just a matter of time then Russian forces will take at least this part of the city, because they already entered the residential area. For this part of the city, there's the big question whether they will be able to cut supplies. If they cut those supplies, obviously they will take all of this region, unfortunately. And Ukrainian command, I'm sure, did their own mistakes in this region, including Soledar and the hard situation in Bakhmut. And people start to ask the questions, first of all, about the Minister of Ukrainian Defense, who mostly go abroad to speak with his colleagues, but we don't see the huge reforms in Ukrainian army as it was promised before. Especially speaking about IHR, I have my mate in the army. He used to be the pilot, but he went to the infantry. Even though he got the experience, he got the military experience as well, they sent him just to the infantry, and he says that there are lots of the artillerists, there are lots of the tankists who serve in infantry. And he told me that there was no selection based on your previous experience, and all of the men that came the same particular day were sent to the one battalion. So HR did the very terrible job, and I think they work for our enemy, because some of the branches are looking for tankists, some of them are looking for artillerists and the drone operators, even pilots sometimes. So we are working now to solve his problem and try to get him to the air forces. And speaking with my other colleagues, I realized that there is no major evolution in mindset of the army control. So we may get some up-to-date staff equipment, but some of the commanders there just have this old Soviet mindset. They are not flexible, they just do what they think is right, and it's terrible. Then your life depends on their decision. And sometimes their decisions are very hard to understand, and I don't know whether it is in Ukrainian army or in other armies too, but I don't like that stuff. You know, as a captain of the airplane, you need to analyze the situation also based on your colleague's opinion, and you need to recheck your decisions, whether they're right or not. And yes, you have to agree with your first officer if you understand that he is right and you was wrong. in Ukrainian army, from what I understood, it's kind of different. In the cockpit, we call it the crew resource management, and I would like the same principle to be introduced in the Ukrainian army as well. And now, after all of the corruption scandals with the high management of Ukrainian army, we're gonna see that the Minister of Defense will resign, and we'll see new people on his position. Also, his deputies were responsible for the wrongdoing. They were arrested, and I think that Minister bears responsibility for his deputies. But nevertheless, we need to see new reforms in Ukrainian military. Unfortunately, we have to do it during the wartime. Basically because our country wasn't prepared for the full-scale war with Russia. Alright, I think I just talked too much, and Russian army obviously has many more problems compared to Ukrainian army. We still have advisors from the Western allies, that is why it's great. So Krasnoye Hora is under the threat as well. You may go to the timeline and see how it's been partially encircled, and I think Russian forces already, they haven't entered the residential area so far, but they're up to take this village. If they take it, the next step is Yahidne, that is on the north from the Bakhmut. Speaking about the Bakhmut itself, let's go to the tactical map. So here on the south, I hope you can see it, there is the vector of the Russian attack. The fight is ongoing between Russian Wagner Group and 63rd Brigade of Ukrainian forces. In the city we have our army, but mostly here in the central part. Before there was the Russian attack vector on this side, but now they canceled this attack. And now they concentrate their forces with their successful penetration of Ukrainian defense lines on the north over here, and they are taking the residential area. As you can see, they've took this part, so the information partially confirmed that Wagner entered the north part, but they say they entered this part, the industrial one. No, they're still in the private sector over here. And they move forward to the city, and here Ukraine has the forces to counteract the Russian attacks still. The problem for Russia is that there's the river over here and all of the bridges were blown up, so they may take this part of the city at first, and if they cut the Chasiv Yar, they may advance to the south of the Bakhmut city. Ukraine still may use this road to move the forces out from the Bakhmut city, and also we have the defense lines on the way out. To cover our forces, then positions will be changed, and also this is the high ground, my friends. Those are the hills, and Ukrainian artillery has the priority in aiming Russians over there, but still Russia has lots of the forces in the region, and you cannot just kill all of them. If we go here to Vuhledar, Russia is not very successful over there because they throw their regular forces, which are not that good compared to the Wagner. So they tried to get this small village actually under their control, but unsuccessfully. Ukrainian forces built huge defense lines in that region and able to withstand Russian attacks. And they already lost around 2,000 soldiers in their attempts to get Vuhledar under their control. They've tried it at first with mobilized soldiers, then with special operation forces, and finally with their regular army. And definitely they moved a little bit forward, but still far away from taking Vuhledar under their control. Why is this small village so important? Because here are just some of the fields, and the neighboring villages are far away, like Vodene and other villages, so potentially Ukraine may put artillery to cut supplies for the Russians through this road. Now we cannot put artillery in Vuhledar because it's basically dangerous for the artillery. About the massive Russian attack, well, our officials continue to say that the probability is very high and Russia concentrates their forces near to Ukrainian border, but they're not saying where exactly. We got the information that Russia sent more forces to Melitopol, but I think it's just a counter-reaction for the possible Ukrainian counterattack to that region. Also, there's some information about the Kharkiv region and obviously Belarus. After the military drills, Russia left many of the airplanes on the Belarusian territory and also part of their soldiers. But the majority of the experts say that Russia may throw many of the new forces to Donetsk region to try to occupy all of this area, including Slavansk and Kramatorsk. Partially, those rumors were confirmed with Ukrainian officials who say that It's time for everyone to evacuate finally from Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. They said it yesterday, and still I don't know why so many civilians are staying even in the Bakhmut city. So I think it's totally unsafe. However, 10% of the population still lives in Bakhmut. So Ukrainian command says that the next 72 hours will be critical for Ukrainian army in Bakhmut. I think they say about the possible cut of the supplies in Ivanovsk and Chasiv Yar. And this video is claimed to be from Bakhmut, so our forces are changing their positions in the city, probably leaving the part of it because of the constant artillery shells. I'll turn the volume for you just to hear it. So you probably understand what is happening in that place. Again, Russian soldiers are modernizing their T-72 tanks. Here we see the big armor panel on the lower part of the front base of the tank, excluding the aft part of the tank itself. And the Ukrainian army also has the T-72 tanks, but mostly those were provided to Ukraine by Czech Republic, Slovakia and Poland. You see the modernization and maintenance of those tanks that will be sent to Ukraine. Continue with the tanks topic. General Dynamics, the company that manufactures the Abrams tanks, will manufacture new tanks for Ukrainian army. But still the company waits for decision to put Ukrainian order as priority because Ukraine is in a queue with Taiwan and Poland. Kind of strange move actually from the United States military. I thought that we'll have written off tanks that still are capable and not serving for United States Army. Obviously getting new tanks is much better, but for that we have to wait a lot of time and we don't have that time. One of the Ukrainian journalists came to Bakhmut. She never was at the front lines, and just see how she's scared of the explosions. Yeah, I would be scared too. Cameraman say that she is very brave to come to Bakhmut without any kind of the previous experience. So yes, it's kind of scary to be in Bakhmut right now. Thanks again, we have lots of the news about those vehicles. Well, the Ukrainian tankists now are in the European Union to start their training on the Leopard 2 tanks from tomorrow. Recently there were some of the military exercise, and there was K2, the South Korean tank, and Leopard 2 A7 also was presented. So Leopard 2 A7 showed the better performance compared to the Korean competitor. Unfortunately, we will not have the A7 modification for the Ukrainian army from the information that we got so far. And officially it's been confirmed that the Ukrainian Minister of Defense Reznikov will resign, and next week the intelligence director Budanov will take his position. Budanov is very competent, and I think that he may reform the Ukrainian army. So I'm quite optimistic about this change. And what caused Reznikov to resign? Corruption scandals. Mostly about the food supplies to Ukrainian army. I already told you in many of my videos that they purchased the products many times expensive even compared to the prices in the Ukrainian supermarkets. India is taking its profit from the conflict according to the Bloomberg article, so they buy the cheap Russian oil and turn it to the fuel and sell the fuel to United States and the European Union. By doing so, India does not violate any kind of rights or sanctions. Well, what can I say? We have what we have, and today, by the way, the European Union stopped buying the fuel from the Russian Federation. I guess we're gonna see a little rise in the prices for the gas in the European Union. However, at the same time, Russia lost around 40 billion euro market with the European Union. This is the German article. Putin's patriarch Kirill was a spy long time ago in Switzerland. So we all know this Russian Orthodox leader who is officially ex-KGB servant. For the long 20 years he used to live in Geneva, and his task was to increase the Soviet influence on the global church. After the Soviet Union collapsed, he got many of the promotions, and now he is the main guy in the Russian Orthodox Church. That's why he is for sure our enemy, especially knowing his background. According to the Financial Times, Ukraine is getting ready for one more big Russian attack. Ukraine already got the information from the Western intelligence that Russia is getting ready to attack in nearby 10 days. I just hope that it will be the end of Russia, because Ukrainian army is now ready for the massive Russian attack in Kiev region, in other places. Yes, we still may lose some of the ground until we'll have tanks and armored vehicles and the airplanes, and Russia decides to act right now. But without the new massive mobilization for the Russian army and without mobilizing their economy, Russia has low chances to win in this conflict. I would say rather no chances. So for them it will be even worse compared to the February 2022, then they try to get Kyiv and many more places under their control. They will be just exterminated. I'm 100% sure about it, and it's the most crazy move that Russia may do right now. The Ukrainian command says officially that they agreed with the Western countries of the transfer of the airplanes to the Ukrainian army, but still they're not saying whether it's F-16 or Gripen. I read many of your comments, and I would agree that probably Gripen would be better because it has the stronger nose landing gear that is more useful for our bad paved runways compared to the F-16 that requires very smooth runways. Still, I like F-16, it's one of my favorite military airplanes, but Gripen is also fantastic. Speaking about the airplanes, Russia posted that they shot down Ukrainian Sukhoi attack airplane Su-25, but if you look closer on the picture, you'll understand that it's the Russian airplane. So here's the Russian airplane. You can see this 15 number over here, 15 number over here, and the modification, and they say that it's Ukrainian. So definitely we also have the airplane at the same type with the same number in Ukrainian army, but you see that the painting is different. Here we have the pixel camouflage, and here is just the white plum with the 15 number, and it's totally different. Russia showed their own debris, saying that it's the Ukrainian airplane. There are some rumors that Russia wants to shut down YouTube on their territory from 28th of the February. Still, we'll have lots of the trolls on this channel, since they will be using VPN services. They want to shut it down themselves, and yes, go ahead. My friends, now press the like to this video, and if you want to support the job that I do, there are always some of the links available in the video description. And I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.